What job is commonly forgot about but is essential for society? Truck drivers. Supply chains are the lifeblood of every industry, from grocery stores to battlefields. Respect to all truck drivers around the globe. I played Euro Truck Simulator and I know it's hard and very important job. Just playing the game is enough to realize that. Waste maintenance. Trashman. Healy hell, watch that pile up if there's no one to take it away every week. I lived in Naples, Italy, in the early 2000s when there was a trash collection strike. It was horrible. When I moved away and got even worse. There were huge piles everywhere. The waste industry in general is a great job. I work on the strategic side of waste management for a municipality. Literally the only service in my organization that absolutely had to continue during the pandemic. Reliable. Public sector job that you don't need a master's for. Saving tens of thousands by not taking out student loans. I wish I was a sanitation worker. They definitely don't have it easy having to haul disgusting garage around all day. But it really should not be stigmatized at all. It's a good job to have. And it benefits everyone. There's no such thing as being above certain jobs. I test the strength of metals and other materials used in things like planes, rockets, ships and subs, and so on. The average person gets on a plane or in a car and just trusts that the engine won't explode and the body won't fly apart. Which is how it should be. There are people whose job it is to worry about that. Which I'm a small part of. Sewage workers. All of them. I wouldn't want to return to the days it's all dumped in waterways. I used to have a job cleaning out the sewer. I was down in the tunnel with the shovel, passing the bucket to the next guy. But I was always at the front because I won't take shit from anyone. Well, if this pandemic taught us anything, grocery store employees are pretty essential. Expendable. Not essential. Almost mandatory if you like eating or wiping your ass. But people will still treat them like shit and straight cough on them. And then BTCH that the grocery store worker was rude for backing away from them. Logistics. Someone's out there figuring out routes, storage, and timetables so you can get that novelty mug from Amazon. This is getting attention with the potential COVID vaccines. Transportation and storage in -80 degrees Celsius freezers is several times more complicated than a novelty mug. Janitors. Yeah. I can't imagine what communal bathrooms would look like if janitors never existed. Probably something right out of the Middle Ages. I was in my high school's band. At some point during each concert, the band director would take a moment to thank everyone who makes his job possible. Our theater's sound and light crew, his colleagues in the choir and orchestra rooms, the parents who donate much needed money for me instruments and such, and 3 other parents who tolerate their kids practicing their music at home. And yes, he would always give a very big thank you to the school custodial staff. I finished high school almost 4 years ago now. But I will forever remember many things the back director taught us. Not the least of which is to appreciate the people who ensure that not only our schools have working lights and toilets, but all other public facilities as well. Maintenance and safety engineers. Especially the ones that impose standards. Those standards are there to keep everyone safe. But a lot of common people forget about what to do and what not to do. Sometimes, they even scream that their actions are more justified than the safety precautions the engineers are imposing. The world as we know it would fall apart in so many ways if all of the essential people who maintain the internet all vanished. So much of banking, security, entertainment, food, etc. revolves around a functioning internet. It wouldn't be an apocalypse, but it would be an insane disruption to the world. Millions would die. Millions more wouldn't be able to browse Reddit. Catastrophe. I test food at the factory to make sure it's safe for people to eat. Reading about pre-FDA practices and food adulteration gives me queasiness and a higher level of respect for you. HVAC technicians. The guys who sweep out and clean parking garages. I work as a valet attendant. People fail to realize how dirty some public parking lots actually can get. Postal workers are men. This year especially hard working with online sales climbing and risking exposing to COVID. And with Christmas season coming right up. Rest isn't coming anytime soon. I wish I could do more for those guys and gals. Funeral directors. Worked in a funeral home. Our number was similar to a taxi company and I'd answer with the funeral home's name as a greeting. Reactions I got. What? Hang up, don't need you guys just yet, okay. But can you get me a taxi anyways? Double quote. Point is, people don't like to think of funeral homes. But sooner or later you will need to make the call. It's not the funeral directors that aren't thought about. It's the transfer technicians that pick up the bodies. The embalmers, cremators. And the other people that prepare the bodies for display or cremation. Those are the ones who do the behind the scenes work that is absolutely necessary. People who create databases. My close friend created a very important database for a big hospital. He worked on it for years and it's really successful. He said he gets compliments from other tech people. But not from regular people. He mentioned he only hears about the bugs when something isn't working. And it's always along the lines of why isn't this working? When can it work again? This is ridiculous. Like, chill the FCK out. He built this from nothing and it's helping save lives. Send him a FKing gift card or something. Research scientists who work on lab rats and mice to make safe medicines, vaccines, psychological revelations, etc. for humans. Thank you. I am a part of this group. I always have to explain to people that you can't just design a drug and give it to people. Only 25% of medical drugs and devices actually make it to commercial use and those never happen on the first try. Without medications and stuff we'd be back to an average life expectancy of 35 or less. Good electricians. Faulty wiring can kill someone or set buildings on fire. Nah. I watched a YouTube video. It seemed pretty easy. Just screw some wires to some terminals. I don't remember which is live and which is neutral, but it is all AC right, so shouldn't matter. S. Reddit moderator. Oh wait, sorry. Thought you asked which job was the least important and least respected. My bad. Lots of people fantasize about being a gun-toting badass when the apocalypse hits. But unless you know a good dentist, your life will soon become unbearable. Teachers. Without teachers, we'd all be bumbling idiots, except the self-taught geniuses. Teachers don't get enough, or any in some places, recognition for their essential contribution to society. Truck driver. Get back to me when those Musk trucks can safely and reliably deliver equipment to construction areas not yet on a dot map and miles away from paved roads. OTR drivers might be worried, but until they are more expensive than self-driving, they're safe. Drivers for large-scale construction companies will have jobs until AI is capable of going off-road safely and efficiently. Not to mention the complexity of securely loading large equipment and offloading in a safe manner. I test condoms for a living. Imagine if condoms reached the market and tested. There would be over poo-poo. Well, I still like my job. Sewage cleaning. Sometimes the piping and lines burst, back up and clog. Someone needs to physical climb and swim through shit just so our society can function. It is also a fairly dangerous job. Water treatment operators. Hands down. You can go without every other of these suggestions and get by. But no water. Society collapses. Water distribution operators and the line maintenance people too. Got to be able to safely move the water from the treatment plants to the consumer. The people that keep the internet working. Meat factory workers. A lot of them are immigrants forced to work in dangerous conditions. And a lot got hit by COVID the last few months. Elevator repair people. When have you ever seen an old elevator removed and a new one installed? Almost never. which means people are constantly repairing old elevators. I assume the elevators are installed when buildings are built and usually are never replaced. I have seen elevator repair people. And since my family has had several encounters with stuck elevators, I definitely know that elevator repair people exist. IT. We basically make everything happen. Look at Ukraine when they got hit by that crippling cyber attack a few years ago. Everything grinded to a halt. I'm salty about how no one thanked us on all of those "we appreciate essential workers" commercials. I've been working double since the pandemic, making sure everyone can manage their finances remotely and withdraw those stimulus checks. Grocers. Think of just how much food you get from the store and don't grow or raise yourself. With the exception of you farmers out there, that number probably approaches 100%. Now imagine if you went to the store and nobody had brought it out of the back and put it on the shelves. Instead it was in the back and the shelves were empty. Cities would burn if we didn't have grocers. Electricians and civil engineers. The people who do the day-to-day maintenance on the machines that the rest of the other jobs kind of rely on. Clerks, cashiers. It's seemingly an easy job to get and to do, but most systems take a while to learn and are constantly changing. Retail sales and service can't work without them. They stand all day and take all kinds of frontline crap. They do a type of PR. If you want to say self-checkout will replace them, there's truth to that, but even self-checkout has clerks. Just one to several stations rather than 1-1. Factory workers. Even as everything gets more automated, someone has to keep all the machines working. And there are some things that will always need to be done by hand. Never done it myself, but major respect. Anyone in the freight business. I'm a freight broker. Lots of manufacturers don't have their own trucks to haul things, so they hire freight brokers. If it wasn't for us, nothing would get on a truck to get where it needs to be. We do mostly steel, so if it wasn't for us, buildings wouldn't be built. Medical laboratory technologists. Always grinds my gears when people say just run more COVID tests. How hard can this be? When my area has a backlog. And it's just like, there are little humans who run these tests. Your swab doesn't just go to the magic lab where test results grow on trees. Utility workers. These times especially. I imagine like other frontliners, they're also being super overworked due to the rise of utility users. More and more people are working from home. Electrical industry workers. Seriously, if we stopped, society would collapse completely within hours. From the common sparky to the workers in the power stations and the people that balance the transmission networks, if they stopped and walked out, our society end. Caregivers. The Blorf wiper that wipes up all the Blorf. People forgot about the Blorf wiper and even Blorf itself. The electrical engineers. Technologists. Technicians and tradespeople who manage, run and maintain power grids across the world. They're the ones who provide the rest of us a foundation with which society can run relatively smoothly upon. Graphic designers. A lot of people say art won't pay the bills, or that it's a worthless pursuit. Design is everywhere. It's a career that can't ever be replaced by automation. The world would be a bleak place without art. Captains and crew of cargo ships and freighters. Conductors of trains. And pilots of cargo airplanes. We forget the crazy journey things take to get to us and how many hands they pass through, all while being enclosed in giant boxes so no one really knows what they're carrying, they just are. I didn't include truck drivers because I feel we are very much aware of their existence. The whole reason your Christmas tree lights up on Christmas morning with your family is because a power plant operator at work at that very moment. Plumber. Not really forgotten about, but there are a lot of people I meet that seem to forget how essential it is. We need running water for practically everything we do. And we all know how difficult life is when we don't have it and can't get a plumber for a few days. Waste disposal. Unless you want your home to become a literal dump, thank your garbage man. If your home is not a little shithole, thank the sewage man. The literally dirty jobs, such as sewage workers or trashmen. People don't like thinking about them, but just imagine the filth if they left all the poop stuck in a pipe or left all the trash standing around. Burial vault workers and cemetery workers. Trash removal. Tip your garbage truck workers. People, especially around the upcoming holidays. Those dudes take the stankiest garbage you leave outside and never complain. If they go on strike for one day, you'll see mountains of garbage bags all over the city. Be nice to those guys. And tip them well. Don't be an asshole. Honestly, probably most blue collar jobs. Society would literally fall apart without them. IT. Don't get me wrong. There are more essential workers out there. But it's been extremely off-putting these past 7 months hearing all these jobs get praised for being essential while I've had to come into the office every single day and put out fires non-stop so all of you people getting to work at home can keep on working and earning a paycheck. I'll go back in my corner and be quiet again so you can all go back to ignoring our existence. Body removal service. Somebody has to do it. I did it for a year at age 22. A great insight into family dynamics. As I watched two brothers fighting to remove their mother's diamond rings from her bedroom jewelry box. In front of their teenage kids. Disgusting. Jim. Deleted. The accounting department of any business. They're making sure the company you work for is paying their bills so you can keep getting a paycheck. I used to work with non-violent juvenile sex offenders as they completed their residential therapy program. It felt like working in a mine shaft that no one knew existed. Maintenance. Most people don't see the maintenance work being done and completely forget there are people doing things like that. But they certainly notice it when the maintenance people go on strike or lose their job and there is no maintenance being done. 100% garbage men. For some reason, the societal norm is that they are the most worthless contributors to society. But honestly, we'd be screwed without them. Imagine how fast the garbage in our homes would build up without an easy way to clear it out. Nothing but total respect for those who chose that career path. Whoever makes the traffic signs and decides speed limits. I remember mentioning to my mother when I was a child that it must be really complicated to plan laws, roads, and signs to keep us all from killing ourselves in our metal death traps. Yet knowing this doesn't keep me from getting irritated when I'm stuck behind someone going exactly 35 on a 35. Lol. On and offshore oil rigs. This sucks, but it is true. I wish it were not true. Because there are only a tiny amount of electric tractors, trucks and ships that enable us to get food from the farm fields to the supermarket. Fun fact. One of the reasons traffic lights have switched to LED in recent years is not just for visibility, but also because the old bulbs last only a very short time. In many cases, the old style bulbs had to be changed weekly. So there has historically been a profession for this, commonly known as bulb jockey. The bulb jockeys switch out traffic light bulbs in the middle of the night. Usually they do this alone, without the help of specialized equipment. They scale the light poles and are able to switch out bulbs in less than a minute, usually at a time that they see no traffic coming. There are still a few bulb jockeys around, but younger people understandably are not learning the trade. Construction workers don't get much appreciation. Most people look down on them. And yet, those are the people who build our homes, office buildings, public parks, public transportation, and many more. And next on my list are probably software engineers or programmers. The average people just know IT as the people fixing computers. Yet most people don't realize how much they take for granted using technology like their phones. The operators in Big Pharma that actually produce medicines. Big Pharma is one of the most hated industries. But those guys aren't the executives with big bonuses that gets all the crap. Just regular people with normal wages. But that does not change the fact that they are essential for society. Imagine if they all of a sudden stopped showing up for work and the supply of, for example, insulin stopped. Electrician linesman. You might not notice right away, but you know how when the power goes out in a storm, imagine it never comes back on. You might have a generator, but that is really expensive to fuel and will fail eventually. Factories around the world begin to shut down, lack of electrical power, and goods are no longer produced. The cunts that keep our internet running. Thanks guys. I wouldn't be able to blast my music without y'all. Cunt is used as a generalization of people in this sentence. Working on a cargo ship. These cargo ships are the backbone for global trade, but no one really seems to notice that much. The job itself seems hyper lonely. A few people on a gigantic ship at sea for months with minimal interaction. Supposedly they don't get too chummy to avoid drama, and the resulting being stuck on a ship with someone you dislike nightmare scenario. I guess pretty similar to trucking, but with a bit more of a dramatic setting. Sewage maintenance, plumbers, and electrical grid technicians. Just read up on Victorian London to see what life was like without a functioning sewage system or plumbers. As for grid technicians, I work retail and we were down about 2.5 hours of productivity due to a power outage caused when some jackass tried to fell a tree by himself. Long story short, the tree fell across the road, severing power lines, knocking down a power pole, and crushing a transformer unit nearby. The manufacturing and supply chain for making bleach. The manufacturing and supply chain for making electrical wire. The entire food production, storage and distribution system. Regardless of COVID, breastfeeders were once hired to breastfeed a child his mom couldn't. Not sure why that stopped. It's not like that artificial stuff is better. It's good enough. But real milk would probably been better. I work in a food warehouse stacking food for hundreds of smaller shops. And I noticed that job positions that people don't know exist and jobs people don't want are often very well paid. My current job doesn't require any education but still get paid a lot more than I think is fair for such an easy job. Seafarers in the merchant navy. In my country there are only about 7,000 seafarers on 18,000 people, so they often don't realize we exist. Often after I say what I do for a living, people still don't know what my job looks like. I have had to explain a lot that one. No, I don't work for the Navy, and 2, I sail on modern ships and not old wooden sailboats. The correct answer to this question in 2020 is public health disease control professionals and lab workers studying diseases. You don't have them to create a good response plan. Or you choose not to follow it, and that's how zombie apocalypses happen. Landscape excavation, tree removal. I've been very fortunate to keep my job during this pandemic, but I feel that landscapers, construction crews, road crews, tree cutters, and anyone in and around those fields of work get forgotten a lot. Infrastructure does not maintain itself. Metrology. Being able to accurately measure things is important not just in science, but also trade. As you need to be able to confidently say I am selling you X tons of product, with Y uncertainty. Double quote. Librarians. They rarely ever get credit, even though they are probably the reason some of us learn to read. Coffee suppliers. Ever met a person in office on a Monday morning that didn't have coffee yet? We keep people from getting fired. At times. Just by easing down the boss's mood a bit with coffee. Well, if she drinks that. Of course. Coroners, medical examiners and morticians. Anyone in the death industry. Really. Basically waste management for humans. Without these people, bodies would stack up. Death investigations wouldn't happen. Cremations would revert to throwing gramps in the fire pit, etc. Life would become very gross very quickly. Engineers. Most of us drive over bridge after bridge without even considering it could fail, because even decades old and some being considered structurally deficient, they still hold up after millions of things driving over it. You can go into any massive building and not even consider if it could fall down, etc. gravediggers, undertakers etc. If you think about it, they are the ones that disposed of thousands of corona positive bodies. And the worst part, in some countries like mine, India, they were not even provided proper equipment. They did it all risking their lives. Call center workers, warehouse employees. Currently working for the richest man, and I'm grateful for a job, but all I've received during the pandemic was a $500, taxed down to like $300, one-time bonus and a $0. 45 raise while working OT of 50-60 hours a week and no locations shutting down even with people testing positive.